everybody. Welcome to my little show that I like to call Spill It. Spill It is a show where I get to speak to inspirational people and share inspirational stories to connect people together, inspire others, and help people learn something new. This is episode 59. My son, Autism, and me, with Erik Raschke joining us at 7:10 p.m. So just under 10 minutes time. So make sure this is going to be such a good story. I heard Erik's story a few months ago. We had a bit of a chat. His story is it pulled on my heartstrings. I'll be honest. From a personal level, but then also just hearing his story anyway. It was a really, really good story. So I hope that you guys join us for that, and also, leave some comments because I want you to like, share, and comment. If you like this post, it means that it pushes it up on all of those little algorithms and all that lot. And it shows that this is something that's worth watching. So we want you to like it. So when you come into the Spill It studio here, give me a quick like. And also, if you give me a quick cheeky share, let's get some people out there watching Spill It on a weekly basis, eh? And also, if you comment, it means that we get to interact with those comments live on air. So if you have questions for me, you have questions for my guests this evening, or you just have questions in general, then all you have to do is just pop them into the comments box and we can interact with them tonight whilst you're at home. Simple as that. It's a live comment chat show. It's awesome. I love it. If you haven't checked out our other episodes yet, then you can do. All you have to do is head over to the Spill It website at www.spillit.uk and you'll be able to catch up on all of my episodes, nearly 60 of my episodes live. So you'll be able to watch all of the ones from episode 1 all the way up until now, including the end of season party with Dan Sprague and Adam Oakley. And also, if you are wanting to listen to this on the move, then you can do. All you have to do is go onto the website and there will be links to the podcast where you'll be able to listen to it in your car or whilst you're cleaning the house or whilst you're having a bath. I don't know. However you listen to your podcasts, you'll be able to listen to me and my guests over on there. There are 3 main ones that we stream to. So you've got Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. And there are others as well, but they are your 3 main ones. You'll be able to find links to those directly on the website. If you want to see it on another platform, just get in touch and let me know, and I'll send you the link over to another platform. Make sure, guys, that you have hit that share button. It is important. We want people to come into the Spill It fold. Okay, announcements. Here are let me start that again. Here are my announcements for tonight's episode, or just, for tonight in general. Number 1, know your worth. This is super, super important. Okay, so basically, on Friday, for those who know me, I do a lot. As in, like, it's not just this that I do. I'm very, I'm pushing myself out over on social media a lot. I'm doing a lot of things over on social media. I run a dance exercise class twice a week. And I also run I basically direct and help with a children's theatre company as well. And I run a full-time job. So I do my full-time job. I do this. I do the editing for the podcast. I do dance exercise twice a week. And then I also have my radio show as well. So there's very, very little time that I actually have to myself. Anyway, I decided that I was going to take a step and hand in my notice for my full-time job. It got to a point where I was beaten down a lot within my full-time job. There were many opportunities that should have been mine that wasn't given to me, or there were people being rewarded who shouldn't have been rewarded. And there was a lot of things that didn't align with my core values. And it made me feel very, very down a lot. And I made the active decision to hand in my notice. on Friday. And here we are. We're on a countdown for me leaving my job. And this is the job that I've had for several years now. And it was just, I had to realize that you've got to respect and know your worth. You are worthy of so much more. And so I wanted to hand my notice in and make that step. And yeah, I feel very, very positive about the future. There's a lot of things happening, especially in the Spill community as well, and also in the Little Bit of community as well. So for those who know, or for those who don't know, I run a radio show called A Little Bit of Marcus. I'm wearing one of the merch hoodies today, a little bit of merch. Now the A Little Bit of platform, or the Little Bit of business, is moving forward. Now, last week we had guests on from a band, and I really, really, really liked that platform. And one of the things that I've decided to do is create a separate show that's specifically for bands, musicians, and anything like music related, essentially. So there'll be a separate show now going forward for these bands. And I'm really, really looking forward to getting that started. Deborah Cade has joined us. Hi, Deborah. Greetings from Arizona. Happy to spend a little time with my friends across the pond. Thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you so much for joining. So yeah, A Little Bit of will be happening and growing even further and growing bigger. There's so much happening with it, and I wish that I could share it all with you, but I can't. But yeah, the first step is that A Little Bit of is pushing into the music world, if you will. And I'm going to be speaking to a lot of bands, musicians, solo artists, singers, basically anybody within the music industry. I think it's going to be a really, really good platform to have. So I can't wait for that. Next on my agenda is the LGBTQ plus month. So next month in September, it's going to be the LGBTQ plus month. So make sure that you are joining for that. It's going to be a really, really educational. Obviously, we didn't do anything over Pride. I felt as though I shouldn't be doing it, even though like I'm a massive advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. I felt like I didn't want to just do something over Pride because I didn't want it to be that I was just doing it because it was Pride. I wanted to like dedicate a full month, or in my head, I thought that this should just be something that you talk about throughout the year. But what I've decided to do is that I am going to dedicate a whole month to the LGBTQ plus community, and that is going to start next month. So we have got guests lined up, all are advocates and part of the LGBTQ plus community, and that is going to be starting next month, and I can't wait for that. So I hope that you guys join me throughout September, and you listen, you learn something about the LGBTQ plus community. And then lastly on my agenda, guests are wanted. I'm currently picking up guests or signing up guests or scheduling guests for October and obviously beyond. So if you want to come on the show and you want to talk about literally anything you want to talk about, you want to come and spill it with me, then you can do. All you have to do is get in touch with me over on my website. There is links to my social media platforms and also my email address, which is marcus@spillit.uk. And you will be able to come on my show and talk. Let's spill it together, shall we? Let's spill it together. Or if you don't want to and you know somebody that might be interested, then get them to get in touch with me, or you get in touch with me on their behalf, and we'll sort it out. Either way, it's up to you. Okay, I've talked your ears off for 10 minutes. It's not my show tonight. It's not my show. It never is my show. It's always my guest's show. That's how I always describe it. It's never my show. It's an opportunity for my guests. Well, my guest is waiting very, very patiently in the back, in the green room. He's here. He's ready to come out. He's got his story to share. He's got a smile on his face, and he's ready to come out. Are you ready? I'm ready. I'm ready. So I'm sure that you guys are as well. Here is my guest of the evening. It is the fabulously amazing Erik Raschke. Hello, Erik.
Hey, how are you?
I am all right. How are you doing?
Good. I like that you're free from your job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. There was a lot of chains with that, and you know what? I took a step, and I hope it pays off. But and I'll be honest, like there has been so many guests that I've had over the last few weeks and months, even where they've basically just said, sometimes you've just got to take that plunge. Sometimes you just got to take that step. And I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take this step, and then who knows what the future holds. But it's definitely a step that's worth taking.
Yeah, I mean, being a writer, like most of my life was working two jobs, writing and working all day, and taking that step to becoming a full-time writer, it's huge. It's enormous. So congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you so much. But it's not about me, even though I appreciate the thank you. Tonight is all about you, and I am ready to play a game. Are you ready to play a game?
I am.
Good.
And I just lost it. I won sorry the other night against my family, but I'm not very good at games. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try my hardest.
I'm sure that you'll be fab at this one. Here it is. It is the 5-second rule. That's right. It is the 5-second rule. This is a game that I play with all of my guests. It's just a nice little icebreaker game. The rules are simple. I will say to name 3 somethings, and you have got 5 seconds to name those 3 somethings. It is as easy as that. You get 3 rounds to play. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Good. Here we go. Here is question number 1. Name 3 things you can paint.
My dog, my wall, and my floor.
You can paint your dog.
He gets paint on him every time we paint. He walks around and he gets paint on him all the time. He just rubs up against stuff. So.
I'm just imagining you just sat there yeah.
The cat too,
Amazing. I love it. Right. Number 2. Name 3 round objects.
Rubber ball, gehaktballen, which is Dutch, and gehaktballen, these little meatballs that they make. So
okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you what one of them is, but I didn't. Yeah. I wouldn't have known the pronunciation. So
yeah, we had them for dinner last night here. So my wife makes them. They're delicious. But
okay, and your last one is. Name 3 things that need to be replaced because of wear and tear.
My father and the washing machine and
just leave it as your father. I'll give you a win for that. That's fine. That's brilliant. Well, that was amazing. Absolutely love that. Well done. Well, put a smile on my face. Did you enjoy that?
I did.
Good.
I'm not the fastest, wittiest person, but I like those games, and yeah.
Just your father. That was epic. That was brilliant. Stephen has joined us saying hello. Hi, Stephen. Hope you're okay. Thanks for joining.
Hey,
okay. Right, here is the question of the hour for you, my guest this evening. Who is Erik Raschke?
Yeah, that's a good question. I thought about this, and I thought of a lot of snarky, quirky answers, and I thought of a lot of serious answers, and I was trying to sort of come up with something. And but yeah, God, what am I? I mean, it's like I think I'm just like everybody else, I'm just sort of plodding through life, trying to, make the best decisions that you possibly can. And I just read the other day, I think is Ian Forster said something like, life is like you have to play a violin concerto without knowing how to play the violin, and life is just trying to play that violin concerto without knowing how. So yeah, I've always wanted to be a writer my whole life, and my father is also, he writes nonfiction and I write fiction, and I've always wanted to be a writer, so I've been a writer first and foremost, but then I became a father, and then all those other sort of important things in your life sort of fall to the side, and then became a father again and a father again, and then it just becomes sort of managing how you had those hopes and dreams and sort of balancing them out with what you always wanted to be, which was a writer, and so I think I think now I've sort of reached a point where I've become a father and a writer, and I'm writing about being a father, and I'm sort of mixing those two together and trying to find my way. And of course, like once again, there's you make a lot of good choices and a lot of bad choices, and you just sort of feeling your way through it because there's no template for it. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not always going to write about being a father, of course. I like writing about other things too, but right now it's consumed me with my son who is autistic, and so. And then another thing too is that there's a lot of I've tried to steer away from the father son memoirs because there's so many of them with like father son, autistic son. So I wrote a book of fiction, but some things have happened within the last few months. I'm like, oh, I have to write about this. It's like it's my life is becoming too good not to write it as a memoir, right now. So it's yeah. So that's where I am. I'm writing, and I'm teaching, and I'm being a dad.
So, I mean, it's very commendable, obviously, for what you're doing. And so you're a father of three, then.
Yeah, 3 boys. Yeah.
3 boys. And is it just one that's autistic, or?
Yep.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're going to go into the story of your books and obviously what you have written about later on. And I just wanted to kind of touch on the fact, obviously, about your son. Or let's begin the journey with your son. So, how is this? Is your son the youngest one, or
He's
middle?
the oldest.
Or he's the oldest one.
Yeah.
How did that obviously? How was your reaction basically when you found out obviously he's autistic, and what did that mean for you in your life?
Yeah, I think talking over the years now, my experience was very normal. That I was like, something's wrong with my child. Everybody's telling me something's wrong with him. And I was here in Amsterdam, and he was going to the, to the daycare, and they were like, there's something wrong. He's not responding to his name. He's, he doesn't clean himself. He goes to the bathroom. Like it's one thing after another after another. And I'm like, I don't know. I lived in New York for years. None of my friends have kids. I'm around kids. He seems fine to me. He just seems like a little kid who's just kind of obnoxious, but like, no, there's something really wrong. And then, yeah, I mean, the problem with the Netherlands is it's a little bit behind America and Australia and other places with autism. And it took us a while before someone said, maybe he's got autism. And then I just read every book I could, and I realized that my experience as a parent was pretty normal, that most parents are like, everybody's telling there's something wrong. They're not doing it. And then like, no. And then all of a sudden, boom, you read it. Oh, maybe there is something wrong. And then from that point on, I was like, okay, now that I know this is what he has, I mean, there wasn't a question in my mind. I'm like, well, what do I do now? And then once again, you just read, talk to other parents, and you're just sort of, all of a sudden your whole life becomes consumed with trying to solve this problem of like my autistic son. What do I do? And that takes every little inch and angle of your body to sort of figure that out. Because I think most parents are like that, they're like, if there's something wrong with their child, it's an inherent thing to sort of try and fix it, right?
Yeah.
The problem with autism, though, as I know now, is that I don't believe after all these years it's something you can fix. It's something that you can sort of, it's a two-pronged thing, where it's like you can help your child fit into society, and then you can help society try and fit with your child, and it's these two fights that you have to sort of deal with all the time. And so, yeah, I mean, it was shocking, but there was a lot of people out there going through the same thing, and you're not alone, and there's a lot of books, and there's a lot of great books. And then you also read, I started reading a lot of people who books by people who are autistic, writing about what it's like to be autistic. And that was a whole next step of understanding autism versus just, psychologists and people writing about what is autism, and actually understanding from the people who are autistic from their point of view what is going on, and then looking at my son and then trying to connect with him on that respect. And now we reached a point to where, with my book tour, I brought him with me to interviews and stuff like that too, so that he could actually become part of it, and then hopefully at some point take over the narrative himself, and then I can go back to being a writer. If he's interested in being an autism advocate, or helping other people with autism, um, then please, that would be great. And then I can go back to the role of a writer. So yeah, it's been a long road.
With regards to, so you said obviously when you found out, obviously you were doing everything you can do to get education, like be educated yourself and speaking to whoever and reading books and all that. How long ago was this?
Well, he's 14 now, so this was when he was 2 and 3. Like, basically what happens is you go through this whole series of things where you go to the doctor, and the doctor goes, well, he's not responding to his name, let's get his ears checked, or he's not behaving this way, take him to a psychologist. And then most of the time you go through like 10 people, and nobody, they're like, I don't know, until somebody says, oh, it might be autism. And now, I mean, we're at a point within 10 years where I feel like people are much more aware of it, and that people are like, okay, this is autism. But back then, even 10 years ago, it was still a struggle, so.
Yeah, this was where I was going to lead the question. Like, how did you find the support back then versus obviously what the support is now? Because obviously there's been a boom around autism, like obviously, and that's where a lot of people get misinformation from or whatever, because obviously there's been such awareness around autism more recently over the last few years. But yeah, obviously you basically talked about it quite well there, that there was a very lack of support back then versus now. I just wanted you to kind of elaborate really what was going through your head at the time as a parent, not being able to get this information or not being able to get this support straight away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're in England, so in the Netherlands, it's a sort of similar situation where you have the sort of social. It's a big thing. You walk into a hospital, you deal with doctors, and they look on a much more of a macro level, and in America, like autism is much farther along, and I believe because there isn't a social net. That because people are like, oh my God, my child's going to be, when I die, my child's going to be alone. I have to do everything I can possibly do to get this child from not being on the street. And so I think you have a lot more money and a lot more resources going into autism, like in Australia too, like where people are like, but where I am in the Netherlands are more like, well, we have kids like this and we have good group homes, and what's the rush? It's fine. We have it all set up for people like this. We don't know what he has or what it is, but if he can't function in society, then there's a place for him. And that was really that wall. And I'm still going up against it quite a bit with him here and with him in the Netherlands, that the difference is sort of night and day, where in the Netherlands that people are like, oh yeah, it's terrible. It's awful. But why spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on therapy when we have a good social net that can catch him when he can't make it? Versus in America, they're like, let's do something now. We have to do this right now. We have to get on top of this, blah, blah. And that urgency, since I'm an American, it was easy for me to sort of like just call people in America and read books and talk to doctors and in America. And I just focused my attention there, where it was more what I was feeling at the time too. So I was kind of lucky in that respect, Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, it does, definitely. With regards to, because you're in the Netherlands, and you're in the Netherlands today as well, aren't you?
Right. Yeah.
But so did you move from America to the Netherlands? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah. So I had 2 years ago, I have a stack of letters and stuff from therapists, basically saying, he can never, his IQ is too low, that he can't do this, he can't do that, he can't do that. And then also, like when my son talks, he's autistic, so stuff comes out of his mouth, and people are like, oh, that's weird, and he's not making much sense, and what have you, and so this whole list of things that I had of saying that he would never make it. It was just, it's a very heavy weight upon your body of like, oh, what do you mean? I see him, I talk to him, I hear what he does, I look at him drawing pictures, I hear his conversations, he talks to me, we do things, and there's somebody in that head. There's somebody there. I can feel it, I can touch it. We talk, we can communicate, but then I have all these people with sort of who are experts, but they're not really, but they are sort of saying to me, sorry, you're sort of overplaying this. And he's never going to read because his IQ is too low. And so about I guess about 2 years ago, I took him to a school in New Jersey, and I took him to a summer program, and they taught him. I said, look, he can't read, but if there's anything you can do, you try and teach him to read. And so they're like, okay, we have like 3 or 4 different programs we can try. And so the first 2 didn't work. And so he would play all day in the summer, and then in the afternoon they would work with him. And then and then the third one, it started working, and he started getting the words. And it was basically, and not to be too technical about it, but it was just, they gave them the whole word, and he had to sort of memorize like a picture, what the word looked like. And then he would keep it. And that's the only way, because he couldn't, putting together the words into pieces was too much for him, but just memorizing what the word was. And like, once he can memorize like 300, 400 words, then he can begin to build off of that. And so they taught him to read within like 6 days. And,
Wow.
and so, like I said, I had this whole folder of people telling me he'll never learn to read. And then, so I was like, I have to get him into the school. And it took about 2 years of finagling with his mother and the Dutch government and stuff like that, trying to get him. And I finally, last year, we got it worked out, and I took him over there, and I got him into school, and it was amazing. Like, he's been doing amazing. He's been learning to read it, but it's not only about the academics. It's not like math. He learned to do math, he learned to do reading, but it's also about like, they spend the time helping kids become social, and they help them interact with the world and learn. They take their autism, like, okay, you're autistic, so how can we help you, live the fullest life you can possibly live? And it's just hard because the judgments, and you were talking like sort of about, and I'm not comparing this at all, but like LGBTQ, like when there were the protests, when they could go out on the street and protest and say, like, we want equal rights, we want this. But autistic kids can't do that. They can't walk with signs and be loud and make noise and stuff like that, because they have communication problems. So parents that I know see their kids, and they know there's somebody there, and they're talking to them, but it's not getting out. And then their rights also are slowly impeded upon too. And I feel like as a father, I've learned over the last few years that I have to fight for him, because I am the one who can do this. I'm the one that can talk loudly onto, podcasts and to things. He can't do it. And that's also a difficult situation too, that I'm fighting for him because he can't do it. If he could do it, it would be great, so.
Leela's left a really nice comment for you as well. So Leela said, what an amazing dad with such positive belief in your son and seeing past the professionals. And yeah, wholeheartedly agree with that. That's bob on, really, because as you said, you had a stack of paperwork essentially that it said that your son's not going to do all of these things, and you believed that he could because you saw something in him, and you didn't just take that word and go, yeah, okay, fair enough, and leave it as that. You fought for him, and you're still fighting for him. As you just quite rightly said there, you are the one that has the voice. You are using your voice to fight the fight, and it's very, very commendable. And there's very little else I can say on that. Like, you are such an amazing human being for using your voice, using your platform to tell and share his story through his eyes, because you need to be the voice for him.
I want to say too, though, that that this, I mean, because this is important. There's a lot of parents that do what I do. Like, I
Hmm.
feel like there's parents that go even beyond what I do. Like, I mean, I write about it. I use my bullhorn, which is to write, or to communicate through language. But there's a lot of parents that, they're constantly fighting. They start organizations. They go to Washington. They're always putting up the fight for their kid, and that is also like I follow that kind of role too.
Definitely. I wanted to talk about the support system. Now, I know that obviously things are a little bit different around the world. Obviously, I'm assuming that the US would be the same as the UK, and obviously you've got a very good support, as you said before, a very supportive network in the Netherlands where you are now. Now, in the UK, one of the main issues that is raised quite a lot is the support of autism children once they leave schools. Now, when they leave schools, they're just kind of thrown into the world, and they've just got to kind of pick up their own or hold their own, or there's no support for parents after the children has left school. And I'm just wondering, what kind of support do you know is out there for anybody that, after when their son or their daughter grow up, and what support do you think there should be?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. I mean, like, okay, so I was working on a book for a while, and I'm still working on it, but it's called like "What Will You Do When I'm Gone," and it's all about like what different people have come up with as solutions to do when they die. Like, what's going to happen? Like, 'cause there's only three things your kid can they can live in a group home, they can live with their relatives or their family, or they can be independent. But the last one, that independent one, that's the tricky one. That's really hard, or at least semi-independent. But that's the one where, when you go as a parent, you're like, okay, at least they know how to navigate the world without me. They're not going to rely on certain people to take care of them. They're not going to rely on the state to take care of them. So I interviewed a lot of people, and actually some of the most interesting interviews I had were in England and in Ireland. And parents just sort of like, yeah, there was just a lot. There was this one woman, and God bless her heart, she was amazing. She was just like, yeah, she like left her daughter on the steps of the Parliament Ireland, and sort of she got berated for doing this. She's like, here you go, here's my child. You say like you'll do something about it, but now she's 21 and she's still living at home, and why didn't you take care of her? Like, why didn't you take care of her like you take care of other people? And she just sort of left her and like walked away. And she's the most wonderful person. So it sounds the way I'm explaining it now. She's just this caring, wonderful person. She's like, look, why are you asking us to do this? Why are you asking parents to take care of their kids, their adult children? Like, when your kids are 21 or, 18, they leave the house. That should be the end. I mean, they can come back when they, get divorced or whatever, but like, but not to just take care of them forever and then worry about it. And she has been this really great advocate for this. And meanwhile, there's been lots of parents who have sort of followed her role. Like, this is not right. This is not right what is happening right now, that you are forcing us as parents to take care of our adult children, that you should be taking care of them. You should be finding ways that we can put, that these child can, and it's slowly working, like she got some things pushed through where there was, after school or like afternoon programs, and where they would pick her daughter up and take her on trips and stuff like that. But she's like, it's still not enough, and so I don't really know, to answer your question, like exactly what it is, but I know that there are these people who are fighting for it, and they're wonderful people, and they're putting up a really good fight about it. And it's like halfway in the fight right now, But the biggest problem right now is that I think, like, when you have bigger social systems and you have governments in charge of it, you have a lot of people who look at disabled people as half people. They're not real
Mm-hmm.
people. They're half people. And then you can't, like, for my son, he can't just stand up and say like, no, I'm a full person. He can't scream. He can't yell. He'll do it. He'll be like, no, like, why don't people listen to me? But he'll say it like this, like, why don't people listen to me?
Yeah.
And that's how he'll say it. And so until that point where people who are disabled intellectually are considered to be full people, then that's going to be the problem, I think. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. Now, we did touch on something before, and I kind of want to bring you back to it. So I asked you if your son who has autism is the oldest or the youngest, and you said he's the oldest one. And I want to kind of just bring you back to that and talk about how, if it has affected, obviously, because you've had two other children after that. I'm just wondering how obviously the support that you've been giving to your oldest one, has that affected obviously your two other children? How have they found everything? Are they very supportive? Are they doing what they can do? Obviously, I know that age wise they might not be able to do a lot, but I'm just wondering how the dynamic of the family has changed, because obviously of the oldest son, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, it's a complicated question, and it's something that happens, I think, with all families, is that the majority of the attention goes on the autistic child, and then the other kids, they want to be supportive, but they're kids, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
why isn't my dad paying more attention to me? Why isn't my mom, when I'm upset, why does my mom, worry about this? Why isn't my mom fighting all these people and talking on the phone all the time for me? It's just a natural reaction for kids, and so yeah, it causes a lot of problems within the family. But I mean, yeah, I think my kids are amazing. Like the fact that how much they've sacrificed for him too. I also think, like, there's going to be a lot of, like, psychology bills. I'm going to play the psychologist a lot later on for them, too, because it affects everybody, and it affects it in very bad ways. But, like, for example, like my youngest one, he's 4, and he's really bossy, and my oldest son, who's autistic, is 14, and they work kind of good together. The 4-year-old, my oldest son's like, he's like, come on, we're gonna go draw right now, and he goes, okay, and then and then he says, you put your shoes on backwards, put your shoes on right, and my oldest son goes, okay, and then fixes them. That kind of thing. I mean, that's sort of also their ages, and I don't know how long that's gonna last, but there are these really nice things. And my middle son, he's 11 too. He's also, like, it's unfortunate, you don't ever want to say this, but he has become a lot more wise, because he's seen everything that his parents have to go through, and too. And on one hand, you want to keep your child in a bubble, and you want them, not there. But then on the other hand, yeah, it is what it is. It's life, and you have to just sort of hope that wisdom doesn't come with any sort of emotional damage or anything like that too. So it's a constant just juggling. You're just juggling, like, please, I hope this doesn't go this and this doesn't go there, like it's hard. Yeah, in that respect.
Your son, who has autism, he's been a big influence on obviously you writing your books, and I just wanted to know how you got started with writing those two, because you've written 2 books, haven't you? You've released 2 books, and I'm just wanting to know, are they both linked to obviously your son, and where did the inspiration come from? What made you sit down and start writing about it? Let's start talking about those books.
Yeah. No, my first book is about sort of my childhood growing up. I think everybody's first book of fiction has to be sort of autobiographical. And it's about my dad. My dad sort of, well, it's not my dad, but the father in the book he sort of believes he's Jesus, and then the son has to hold everything together. My second book was the one that I wrote about my son, about autism. I guess I just wrote a lot of memoirs, and then father-son memoirs about raising autistic. And I didn't want to go. I wasn't ready to go there yet. I didn't connect with them. I thought they were too personal. I wanted to create something that was more of a overarching idea about what is disability, and what is so anybody who is raising a child with ADHD, or the myriad of things that your child could, the struggle of being a parent and trying to give your child the best life they can possibly have, with these challenges. And one of the things was that I read a lot of stories about parents who are just sort of in these insurmountable situations, who couldn't deal with their autistic child. Like, for example, there was one mother in Canada whose child had a lot of tantrums, of violent tantrums, and she just watched him get bigger and bigger and bigger, until the point where he was twice her size almost, and then she just couldn't stop him with his tantrums anymore. And I'm sorry, this is a little grim, but she just took him and they jumped in front of a train. Like, she just couldn't do it anymore, you know. And that story happens at least once a month. I mean, you read it, you know, the Daily Mirror loves to write about stuff like that, you know, unfortunately. But these stories about parents just can't do it anymore, you know. And then I read one about a father who was it was just in Rolling Stone, about a father who had an autistic son, and the mother had left, and he was trying to pay his bills, but his house was going to get repossessed, and he didn't know what to do. Like, he couldn't work because he couldn't leave his son alone. But his house was going to get repossessed, and then he knew if his son went to a state home, it would be a disaster, especially in America, where like the group homes are horrible, a lot of them, that are funded by the state. I mean, and so his son really liked to be. A lot of autistic people, they like pressure against their body. So his son liked to be tied up against a tree, and he could sit there for hours in this tree. And the father got a job, and he's like, it was only like 4 hours a day. And he's like, if I do this job for the summer, if I can just do it, I can have enough to make us through the winter. And so every day he would tie his son up to a tree for 4 hours, and he would go to his work, and he was earning money and it was working until his neighbor reported him to the police. Wow. And then social services came. He was arrested, put in jail. His son was taken away to a home, and his son was basically killed in the home. And there's all these very grim situations, and the father just, you know, it was devastating for him. And so I sort of like, I wanted to write a book of fiction that sort of connected with the struggle, the internal struggle that a parent has to deal with these sort of things that are the problems that we have, not just with autism, but like with children that struggle with sort of all sorts of disabilities. So that's what I was going for.
We'll definitely get some information about those books, and we'll definitely post them out as well. They do sound very, very interesting, and I think that definitely they should be worth a read. So 100% what we'll do is post those links out for people to have a look for themselves, and maybe make a purchase and have a read as well. One of the things I wanted to talk about as well was the advice that you could probably give to maybe new parents who have just had an autistic child, or even just parents in general who've got a child who has been diagnosed with autism. And what advice would you give to them if they are, you know, getting to a point where they are feeling like they are struggling, or, you know, mentally, because obviously it will be quite draining mentally as well for a parent. I'm just wondering what advice you would give to either new parents or older parents.
Yeah. And that's a tough question, because like there's all different, the spectrum of autism is huge, you know. So like, you know, if kids are high functioning or low functioning, you know, and then also the financial background of the parents, you know, what sort of resources do you have? Like, some people have a lot of resources, some people don't. I feel like I'm pretty lucky. I live in two very good countries, and I have a lot of resources. And especially when I went to America, New Jersey, they were like, I mean, America, we have the Americans with Disability Act, which is I think one of the most fantastic things ever to be done in American history. I mean, you know, speaking bias, of course, but it changed the whole idea of that if you are disabled, the state is obliged to make you equal, right? So I think what you have to look at is what you can do as a person, you know, what your own capabilities are, what, you know, when your sacrifices for other people are going to interfere with this. And then you also have to say, like, okay, I want this child to be equal, and how far you're willing to go with that fight as a person. Because as you know, with like LGBTQ, like there's a lot of people that will put up a fight, that will just fight and fight and fight. And there are people like, I'll just wait to see what happens, you know? And I guess you just have to assess who you are as a person and just really be honest with yourself, and then do what you can, you know? I mean, I guess that's kind of trite what I'm saying, but like, yeah, everybody's different, and it's not an easy fight, you know? So
Definitely,
it can run you down. If you look at a lot of parents with autism, you know, the gray hairs and wrinkles, and, you know, they're exhausted, you know? So that's what you want to do. But
now, with regards to who, like with you and obviously your son, and both of your lives. What is next for Erik? What's next for Erik? What does the future look like?
Yeah, it's difficult right now. I mean, there's some setbacks we've had recently, and it's some struggles that I've had to really deal with, and I've tried to put them in place. And I guess like I don't know. It's hard. I mean, the future, I'm trying to be as optimistic as I possibly can, but I'm also trying to be as honest as I possibly can with myself. How far can you get? How far can I go with my son? Is he going to be a lawyer? I don't know. Is he gonna have a job that he really likes because he loves music? He loves DJing. That's what I want, but you're constantly hitting walls, and how much energy do I have to fight these walls, and how much energy, how far can we go in a society that's, looks at him as not equal? It's an individual thing. And I it's funny because, you read a lot now about, a lot of slave narratives and people who came to America and they were trying to, sort of become equal people. And, it doesn't happen in one lifetime. It happens in several lifetimes, and I think we are going much faster now. I think the way people look at autism now has changed tremendously within 10 years. And hopefully in 10 more years, it'll be a totally different place too, and I'm in the Netherlands, and I think it was Spinoza who said that the Netherlands. He said when the end of the world comes, the Netherlands is a great place to be because it's 10 years behind everybody else. So hopefully in 10 years, we'll be in the same place. So I feel like and then in New Jersey, like where he's going, he's growing. He's doing really well. And so yeah, where am I? I mean, I have to think of my other kids. I have to think of my own family, my wife, and so there's. I hope that, yeah, like everybody else, just in a good place. Everybody's a little bit more settled and happy,
Yeah, with
is that a good answer? I feel like that's
it's a very good answer, and it's a nice little segue into my next question. So, if, for example, somebody wanted to get in touch with you to find out more about your story, to find out about your books or anything else like that, where can people find you?
Yeah, just on my website. Please email me. I love getting emails from people. It's www.erikraschke, ERIKRASCHKE.com. Yeah, that's the best way. I mean, I'm on Facebook too. You can also write me on Facebook. I'm not super social media savvy because I'm kind of clumsy with that kind of stuff. And I feel like when you're clumsy with social media, you can get in way too much trouble nowadays. So, but yeah, my website, send me an email. I'd love it. I'd love talking to people. I love if I can help out or, help out any way, please.
What we'll do now is we will just quickly pop that up. So I think I've got it right. I haven't got my glasses on. Bear with. There we go.
That's it.
There we go. So there's the website there. So if, for example, you wanted to get in touch with Erik, then you can do www.erikraschke.com. You'll be able to get in touch with Erik. There are links to your social media platform as well on Facebook, isn't there? On there as well. I was going to drop you a message on there. But yeah, so that is the website that you can go on to. What I'll do is I'll post that into the show notes as well. So those who are listening to this via Apple Music, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, or other podcast streaming methods, then quickly check the show notes and you will see that I have put the website in there as well for Erik. So you'll be able to get in touch with him as well. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would like the opportunity to discuss now?
Well, God, no. I mean, there's a lot of things I can discuss. I mean, I can talk for hours and hours about things. No, I think we've got it. I feel bad. Like I feel like I'm sort of like been the serious guest on your show. I've listened to your other shows and everybody's so jovial and fun, and I'm just like,
to be fair,
I am pretty fun. I am a fun guy, sort of, I think.
We've definitely needed some. The thing is that we do talk about some serious stuff on here as well. More recently, it's been quite lighthearted, but this was a subject that was very close to me, very close to my heart. I have a nephew who has autism, and it's an episode that I've been wanting to do for a while because I do feel like there is not enough, even though we are getting to a point where obviously people are talking about it more, it still could be better. And I wanted to use my platform to get some stories through about autism. So thank you so much
really
for coming on the show, being so open, honest, and vulnerable with us as well, and basically telling your truth. It's very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. Now, have you got some final thoughts for us today?
Wow. I have thoughts. I have lots of thoughts, lots and lots of thoughts. I mean, one of my biggest thoughts right now is that Casa Bonita. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and Casa Bonita is this Mexican restaurant, and it was going bankrupt, and it's really awful. It's got just cliff divers, and the guys from South Park just bought it. And
yeah, I saw that. I've been following that story for a while. Yeah.
I grew up there. I grew up in Colorado, and like everybody is so like when they bought it, everybody's like, "Yay!" Like finally we have saviors, you know. So, yeah, look at what you can do. I think they got like $900 million or something like that for their show. So you can buy Casa Bonita when you get rich and you get successful. There's the world is your oyster.
Definitely. What a final thought.
That's gonna become you, you know, now that you've taken the plunge to becoming a full-time, you know, interviewer, and you're gonna have to step your game up a little bit more. And I think that's a crazy thing right now that you're going through. Like you're like, before you're sort of like you had something to fall back on, you know, but then that minute you don't have anything to fall back on, that's when you really find out who you are. And I think that's going to be fun for you to really explore, because you're a great host, you know, and you got great personality. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, that's brilliant for final thoughts. It's all about, like, you know, praising me, which is brilliant. Love that. We'll stick with that with final thoughts. No, but honestly, it's been absolutely amazing having you on the show. As I say, this story was something that it is very, very close to me. I wanted to talk about this on my platform. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and, you know, as I say, just being so open, honest, and vulnerable with us, and telling your truth, telling your story, telling your son's story as well, and being the voice for him. What you're doing, as I say, is very, very commendable. And as you quite rightly said before as well, there's plenty of other people out there fighting the fight. So I appreciate that as well. And I want to thank them for fighting the fight. And if we can do more episodes in the future covering autism, then that's what we will do. I will use my platform as much as I can do to get that message out. And I know that this spectrum is a wide spectrum for autism, and I would absolutely love to have as many people on telling their story and doing what we can do to fight the fight, I suppose.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great, man.
Now, at the end of every episode, I give my guests the opportunity to give a quote, and it can be something that they stand by, live by. It could be something that they've made up that they just really like, or it could be that they have read a quote and they think, you know what, I absolutely love that quote. And I'm just wondering if you've got a quote for me today, and if you'd be able to explain why that quote is important to you and why it's important to share that quote today.
Yeah. Well, I have a quote from Flaubert about the truth is perception, you know, and there is no truth, only perception. I'm sorry, Flaubert. I guess it comes from the French, but there is no truth, only perception. I guess, like, you know, especially with my son, that he sees the world in a completely different way than I do. You know, that there's so many people, and they all see the world in such different ways, and their truth is not my truth, you know. And so when you start saying, like, this is how it should be, and this is the truth, and this is the way the world works, and stuff like that, you're really, really, like, you're forcing your perception on the rest of the world. And I think that holds us back from becoming, you know, more inclusive and diverse, and et cetera, you know, and that we really think about how other people see the world and what their truths are too, you know. So.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that quote with us today. And thank you again for sharing your story with us. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I wish you all the best for the future, and obviously for your son as well. I wish him all the best for the future. Who knows? One day he might be a lawyer, and one day he might want to come on this show himself and tell his truth. Who knows? You know, let's hope so. Anyway, it's been, as I say, it's been an absolute pleasure. Leela's commented as well. Thank you. It's been an excellent insight into autism. And that is true. It has been an excellent insight as well. So thank you so much. You are now free to say your goodbyes, Erik.
Hey, goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoy this, Marcus. I love the energy. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, and I'm sure it won't be the end. I'm sure we'll keep in touch and obviously have a conversation further on down the line. But for now, Erik, it is goodbye. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I loved it.
Nope. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
What an amazing episode. Oh my God. As I said, like towards the end of that episode as well, it is a subject that's very, very, very close to my heart. And I wanted to share this story so much. I, quite a while ago, I posted out a big post talking about that I wanted a guest on to talk about autism. Now, Erik hadn't seen this post. Erik had seen a previous post where I was just after random guests. And when he talked about his story, I was like, there you go. I have just wrote a post asking for these people, parents of autistic children, to come on the show. And so this is a story that I have to share. He's such a great person. It's been an absolute pleasure to have him on the show. Thank you again, everybody. Once, for being so attentive and being participating in the show. I absolutely love doing this, and you're going to see a lot more in the future of me doing Spill It. And I can't wait to share with you all of my plans for the future, especially for Spill It. Next week, I have got a lovely guest lined up for you. This is Lucas Chapman, and Lucas will be on the show talking about the life after care. So the episode is episode 59, Care After Care. And this episode, we'll be talking about Lucas, who grew up in care, and what it was like to have support or not get support in the life after care. Lucas will be on the show on Wednesday, the 25th of August at 7 p.m. So make sure that you are joining in for that. My name is Marcus Wright, and when I don't do this, I run a little radio show called A Little Bit of Marcus, and you can find that on Beat 103 between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. live on Beat 103, and you can follow my Instagram for that at Marcus Beat 103. If you are wanting to get in touch with me for anything Spill It related, or you want to see our future guests, or you want to get in touch with our guests, then you can do by heading over to the Spill It website at www.spillit.uk. On that website, you'll also be able to support me by buying merch. Now, I've got a brand new merch lineup coming as well, which is absolutely epic. There'll be other t-shirts available, specifically ones to do with previous guests as well. So if you are a fan of some of the previous guests, then let me know and I will sort out a t-shirt for you. But there are plenty on the way, and you'll be able to buy all of that over on the website as well. Now, if you're wanting to support me and the work that I do, then you can do by becoming an official Patreon supporter. You can donate just £2 a month. That is it. £2 a month will help support this platform. It will help me grow this into something bigger and better as well. And all I ask for is a donation of £2 per month. You can find the Spill It Patreon over on the Spill It website at www.spillit.uk. Thank you for obviously those people who are donating already. It does mean so much. It means that I can keep growing this platform and keep it growing into something big that will be taking over the world. Or so I hope, anyway. And also, you can invite people into the Spill It community by inviting people into the Facebook page, the Facebook group, the Facebook page, and also sharing all of the links. If you are watching this via YouTube or Twitch, then you can share them links out and you can go, hey, look at this. You should join this group. And, there are episodes every single week and blah, blah, blah. And also you can share the Spotify, Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts out as well to your friends and to your family and go, hey, give this a listen. Make sure you listen to him. He's fab and he has loads and loads of guests. Do that for me. Support me, guys. And of course, you can leave a review. So if you're watching this via Facebook Live, go onto the Facebook page, leave me a review. and let me know how I'm getting on. If you've enjoyed the episode, if you've enjoyed any of the other episodes, if I put a smile on your face at any point during my Spill It broadcast, or my guests have really put a smile on your face, then head over to the Facebook page right now and leave a review. If you're listening to this via Apple Podcasts, you can do the same. Just click onto the main page, leave me a review, and let me know how I'm getting on. It's as simple as that. I absolutely love reading reviews. So if you can spare a minute of your time, then head over and leave me a review. Right. Well, that is it from me. Thank you so much to everybody who's joined in tonight's episode. Again, once more, thank you so much to Erik, who has come on the show and been so open and honest with us. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure that it will not be the last that we see of him. Until we spill it again, it's bye for now. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Spill It. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time to do so. Spill It goes live every week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And a special thank you to these amazing teacups.